with this one. It's a bit more of a serious topic, you know what I mean? But I thought I'd address it too. Everyone's talking about vaccines and whether they're taking it or not. Now, if you know me, you already on the firm no side, you probably don't need to watch this unless you're gonna be using this to show to somebody else. But this is more for the people them that ain't really too sure right now. Yeah, I'm saying I'm a firm no. But after I show you what I show you, you explain to me why I'm wrong. Yeah. Alright, sure. You lot are going on like say your memory's short. Even if your memory's short, good thing is internet's memory ain't too short. So let me remind you lot of previous things. 1976.
The flu season is upon us. Which type will we worry about this year? And what kind of shots will we be told to take? Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death, allegedly triggered by the flu shot. We pick up the story back in 1976 when the threat posed by the swine flu virus seemed very real indeed.
This virus was the cause of a pandemic in 1918 and 1919 that resulted in over 500,000 deaths in the United States, as well as 20 million deaths around the world.
See how easy it is to...
Thus, the U.S. government's publicity machine was cranked into action to urge all America to protect itself against the swine flu menace.
Influenza is serious business. During major flu epidemics, millions of people are sick and thousands die. Well, this year you can get protection. The vaccines are safe, easy to take, and they can protect you against flu. So roll up your sleeve. Protect yourself.
One of those who did roll up her sleeve was Judy Roberts. She was perfectly healthy, an active woman, when in November of 1976, she took her shot. 2 weeks later, she says, she began to feel a numbness starting up her legs.
I joked about it at that time. I said I'll be numb to the knees by Friday if this keeps up. By the following week, I was totally paralyzed.
So completely paralyzed, in fact, that they had to operate on her to enable her to breathe. And for 6 months, Judy Roberts was a quadriplegic. The diagnosis? A neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome, GBS for short. These neurological diseases are little understood. They affect people in different ways.
Look, that was 1976. The same rhetoric, the same kind of things they keep bumping out all the time, yeah? But I'm just a little bit too skeptical, yeah? Okay, cool. Let's go back to the swine flu, 2009? 2009.
Council of Europe will launch a probe into pharmaceutical companies accused of manipulating swine flu data. This follows a claim by a renowned German scientist that vaccine manufacturers pressured the World Health Organization into declaring a swine flu pandemic, seeking to increase profits. RT's Laura Emmett has more.
It was supposed to be a deadly pandemic, but it's so far nothing more than a serious cold. And it's left a lasting headache as a debate rages over whether pharmaceutical companies deliberately misled governments about the seriousness of swine flu to make them stockpile vaccines. The legal standards organisation, the Council of Europe, will gather the arguments.
Britain has spent a fortune on preparations. We've caused a great deal of stress to the population. People are very anxious about it. And we've distorted the priorities of our health service. And I believe when we have a thorough investigation and we look at this, we'll discover that that's the story. The world has been subjected to a stunt for their own greedy interests of the pharmaceutical companies.
European countries bought billions of dollars worth of vaccine from pharmaceutical companies including Baxter, GlaxoSmithKline and Sanofi Pasteur. Some of the contracts included a clause where governments could get out of buying the drugs if they were no longer needed, but some, notably ones with GlaxoSmithKline, did not.
We continue to support governments in...
Yo, I'm gonna put all the links for these little things in the mix there for you, so you can get to see for yourself the full videos and whatever. We played this one then for you. Got the same time while that was happening.
Multinational medicine company Pfizer is in the news for a possible multi-billion-pound takeover of pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline. But GlaxoSmithKline is also in the news for allegedly causing an incurable and rare sleeping disorder, narcolepsy. GSK's swine flu medication, Pandemrix, approved for use back in 2009, has apparently left around 800 children in Europe suffering. Joining me now is one of the children affected, Izzy Warbank, her mother Jeanette and her father Craig. Welcome all of you to Going Underground. So Jeanette, let's begin with why you gave Izzy the GSK injection.
She was diagnosed as being asthmatic when she was around 2, and my other son, my middle son, who's perfectly fine, and my daughter were offered the swine vaccination. So we decided to go ahead with it, not, thinking about any of the knock-on effects that we've obviously experienced.
Well, were you told that there would be any?
No.
We were told it was mild asthma.
Mild asthma, and we were offered, and my son, like I say, now he's perfectly fine, but my daughter has gone on to be diagnosed with narcolepsy.
So within 6 months, what happened?
It's a difficult situation because she was at preschool as well, so obviously a 2.5-year-old coming home from school and falling asleep in odd places, like on the stairs, for example. It was rare, but a lot of doctors would just say, well, she's a toddler and she's at preschool. But we carried on and we got referred, and initially I was told that she'd been attention seeking. I wasn't happy with that, so I got a second opinion and we went to St Thomas's, and since then she's been diagnosed with narcolepsy after going to a sleep clinic. She can fall asleep more or less anywhere. If we're out shopping, she can fall asleep standing up. She can fall asleep on my husband's shoulders. She falls asleep in the bath, on stairs. And if we're out and about, she will find an unusual place under a table, under a chair, to fall asleep.
So it can be really dangerous.
It can be incredibly dangerous.
And Craig, so now she's been prescribed another drug to mitigate those symptoms.
Yeah, you see what I'm dealing with? But I'm crazy, innit? You know what I mean? So let's put it all in perspective. Every time they make a drug, it's not 100% safe. There's a certain percentage of people that will get injured from it, will get these adverse effects. You have to balance it out whether it makes sense. For me, that don't seem to make no sense. I don't see no reasoning behind it, and I don't trust these people. Let me go into this GlaxoSmith thing, car. I ain't playing with you with this. So alright, 2009, same thing happens every time they come out with a pandemic. Reason they like to come out with the pandemics is because that means the government can then go into emergency mode, and then they can then circumnavigate certain restrictions and certain guidelines that they've got on giving out contracts and all of those kind of things, and safety measures on vaccines and all of that. So 2009, people ended up getting 60 million paid out of the government scheme for damages from that same swine flu vaccine. Same rhetoric was given out. Safe, it's this, it's that, it's cool. So there's lots of stories about it, so I'm just gonna flick through these so you can see there's lots of stories about it. Look, 5 years, it took them 5 years to actually get the money. So the government's got a vaccine injury scheme for any vaccines that come out. If you get injured by one of them, they will pay you up to 120 grand. Yeah, so they're capping it at 120 grand. So if you get, like that little girl, if she gets injured from 2 all the way for the rest of her life, they're trying to give you 120 grand. And then you have to prove that it's over 60% of your body that is damaged. And one of them, look, ministers lose fight to stop payouts over swine flu jab narcolepsy cases. GlaxoSmithKline, Pandemrix. This is the same people that was in charge over this one are in charge at the moment. But you know, we must trust them, yeah. Mail on from the Daily Mail Online. their profits soar as drug firm charges NHS £6 for swine flu vaccine that costs £1 to make. So if we order 100 million of them, then they're gonna make 600 billion. Like, and then when they're making all 600 million off of one order, 60 million paying out isn't nothing. And bearing in mind that's not coming out of the GlaxoSmith money; it's coming out of the government's money. At the time, there was skepticism about it. Same things were being said. A third of nurses will refuse to have the swine flu jab. Yeah. And why? Why were they saying that? For the same reason. It's been rushed out, not willing to put myself at risk of unknown long-term effects to facilitate a short-term solution. This is what the health minister, the health NHS staff was saying at the time. Hold on, let me show you this one. This is a recent story talking about the coronavirus thing. And this is from HuffPost UK. And it's talking about who profited from the government's coronavirus spending boom. Yeah? Because like I said, when it goes into emergency mode, they can spend what they like. They can go around. Yeah? So, I'm just jumping from like halfway down here. Revelations have already hit headlines about large PPE and testing contracts awarded to firms that ultimately supplied unsuitable products such as Inuenza Capital Limited and Randox, which has placed a spotlight on the government's use of emergency procurement powers. Yeah, so when it's an emergency, they can go around all the checks that they need to. So we have found the PPE contracts worth 186 million. The second largest amount spent with any PPE supplier went to UK logistics firm Uniserve Limited, whose multi-millionaire owner is listed as a speaker for the influential pro-Brexit lobby group Prosperity UK. Other speakers listed on the site include Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Cabinet Minister Michael Gove. If that's not a conflict of interest, then what is? Like, they are literally mates, and they're awarding 186 million to them. Oh, well, okay, maybe they're just the best people for the job, yeah? Never done it before, but they're the best people for the job. Alright then. Another 2 large PPE contracts worth 49 million in total went to a company, Initia Ventures Limited, with assets of only £100 and company's house records listed as dormant. 49 million of public money to a company that doesn't do anything. It's dormant. It doesn't trade. That's not fraud. That's not okay. Cool. So let me give you a quick. I'm gonna switch over to a quick web search. 2009 swine flu brain injury. Yeah. There's plenty of stuff you can see about it. Do you know what I mean? Plenty of stuff you can see about it. But this one I found interesting. I thought I'd pull this one up for you. These NHS staff were told the swine flu vaccine was safe and now they're suffering the consequences. Yeah? Dozens of NHS workers are fighting compensation after developing narcolepsy from a swine flu vaccine that was rushed into service without the usual testing when the disease spread across the globe in 2009. They say it has destroyed their careers and their health. Yeah? This is a quote from one of the nurses. I remember vividly, we were all lined up in the corridor and we were told we had to have it. It wasn't a choice, she claimed. I was pressured into it. We were given no information. Sound like anything right now. Okay, and the date was a vaccine. Yeah, so that was NHS staff vaccinated with Pandemrix, a vaccine made by pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline. Same people them that's going off with their thing now. Oh yeah, sure. Alright, so I'm gonna keep it moving. God, I don't wanna be here too long. So let me switch it up, bro. This is a document from the BMJ. So this is the British Medical Journal. So I'm not just like pulling out like opinion pieces. These are medical studies that are gonna explain these things to you, yeah. And this one explains to you how vaccines actually cause damage, because it's obviously what's in the vaccines It's in the ingredients that cause the damage, but this is explaining how. Yeah. So in a quick summary, I'm gonna jump in. Look, no vaccine is perfectly safe. Yeah. Vaccinations may damage children in several ways. Live or attenuated virus vaccination can actually produce the infection that the vaccine is supposed to prevent. You catch that? So it can give you the thing that is supposed to be just stopping you from catching. A second mechanism of damage comes from neurotoxic materials found sometimes in vaccines. Thimerosal is the most widely discussed since it contains mercury, but there's loads of others. Yeah, there's loads of other alternative neurotoxic materials that they're using in there, and it's to produce certain effects. Yeah, like this mimicking nature thing ain't easy. All right, so the third and probably the most important theory of vaccine damage relates to allergic reactions and the development of autoimmune response stimulated by the vaccine and its adjuvant. Vaccines always contain adjuvants, which are substances known to amplify the body's response to the vaccine. These adjuvants are known to sometimes cause allergic and autoimmune responses on their own. All right. So I'm flicking to this. This is one of the insert documents from a vaccine called Engerix B. This is currently available in the UK, again by GlaxoSmithKline, produced by GlaxoSmithKline. I thought this was an interesting document, or something that comes inside of the document, but inside of the medication. But if you look, when we get down to here to, where is it, clinical studies. Let me start back at the top. There we go. Alright, so look, clinical trials experience. It starts talking about the most common solicited adverse events were injection site soreness. Explains how many people, 36 clinical studies, a total of 13,500 doses. Yeah. And then the bit that jumps out, all subjects were monitored for 4 days post-administration. 4 days. Yeah, so these are the safety tests that's fine, 4 days. So if something happens on the 5th day, 6th day, it doesn't get recorded. But that's just that, yeah? That's 36 clinical studies, that's how they did them ones there. Okay, so go to the next set. In a clinical trial, 416 adults with type 2 diabetes, whatever, and the same sort of thing, explaining how many people subjects were monitored for solicited adverse events for 4 days following each vaccination. Like 4 days, cool. All right, let me keep it moving, car. Oh yeah, let me just show you these two videos, yeah. So alright, these two videos I'm gonna show you are from a guy called Stanley Plotkin. You can do your own research on him, but he's known as like a godfather for vaccinations and them kind of things there. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's gonna explain to you adjuvants.
I'm Stanley Plotkin, Professor Emeritus of Pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania. Vaccines are made of proteins and sugars. The problem with some vaccines, however, is that those proteins and sugars don't give enough of an immune response. Therefore, in some vaccines, an addition to the vaccine is called an adjuvant. Adjuvant is derived, the word is derived from the Latin meaning to help. And in effect, the adjuvant is a chemical substance that improves the immune response to the proteins or sugars in the vaccine. The adjuvants come in different types. Aluminum salts are among the most prominent adjuvants. but these days we have other types of adjuvants that are stronger, that give stronger responses than aluminum, and therefore make for more potent vaccines.
Right. So if you kind of get the idea of these added things, it creates a bigger response, and sometimes it can go both ways. All right, but he was asked on a in America. He got brought into one of these hearings. Same similar to like how Zuckerberg and these guys get brought into hearings about what's going on with Facebook and all of it. He got brought into a hearing about what's in children's vaccines. Yeah, hear him.
Cells. Do any of the vaccines on the childhood schedule contain monkey kidney cells?
Well, the polio vaccine does.
Are you aware of any simian, monkey, viruses, meaning viruses that come from primates, that contaminated polio vaccines and infected individuals receiving the polio vaccine?
Yes, SV40.
Okay. And what does SV40 stand for?
Simian virus 40.
Okay. Was it the 40th simian virus found? Is that
yes.
why it's called? Are you aware of any virus from any animal other than simian or bovine that is in any vaccine?
Yes, there's a pig virus present in one of the rotavirus vaccines, circovirus.
Do any of the vaccines in the childhood vaccine schedule contain blood serum from calves or other bovines?
Calf serum is removed before the vaccine is used because you don't want to sensitize the vaccinee to cows.
What is this?
Vaccine excipient and media summary.
Can you go to Kinrix on the first page?
Yes.
DTaP IPV.
Wait, I think it's important to highlight what the man just asked him. The man just asked him if there's any cow thing in any of these vaccines, and the man says no, we don't want. It's taken out before that, because if it's still left in there, then you might become like allergic towards cows. You become sensitized, the opposite of desensitized. So, you know what I mean?
Do you see in the third line down, it says calf serum? Do any vaccines on the childhood schedule contain embryonic guinea pig cell cultures?
Varicella vaccine was passaged in guinea pig cells.
Do you know if any vaccines contain cow's milk in it? Derived from cow's milk?
It could be, casein, for example, could be.
If there was casein in the vaccine, a child could become sensitized to that, correct?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
You're not sure?
He's not sure about that now. He just said, but he's not sure about that now.
Any more about that? Do any vaccines contain egg protein?
Oh, yes, influenza.
Do any vaccines contain gelatin from pigs?
Yes.
Do any vaccines on the childhood vaccine schedule contain human albumin?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. What is human albumin?
Human albumin is part of human serum. It's part of the blood that is liquid.
None of it remains in the final product.
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, because that could be problematic, right?
Well, it could be. I mean, if the individual is not healthy.
Or if maybe some of the human blood components bind to some of the aluminum and develop antibodies, self-antibodies, correct?
If they develop antibodies against a serum component, that would not be good.
Do any vaccine?
Listen, you can go through and watch all the whole thing for yourself. Like I'm just giving you a highlight of my skepticism and my standpoint and why, a scientific understanding of why this isn't just I don't trust them. Alright, so I'm gonna keep it moving. Let me click onto this now. Let me get this on the screen. So right, couple years ago, 2018, we had 50,000 excess deaths. So worse numbers than what we've actually got now, or worse numbers than what caused us to go into lockdown. And we didn't. If I mention this to you now, most of you probably barely remember that. So like there was no big hoorah over it. I mean, if I get it up on the screen, they're putting that down to an ineffective flu vaccine. Now, as we see, it could be also the fact that the ineffective flu vaccine, the wrong strain, helped make them catch something else. But the point being that we had these same sort of numbers, and there was no lockdown. There was no reason to take your liberties. But you know, it's all about the vaccine, yeah. You see, because of that that year there, with the high numbers, they had to do some studies into like, oh, why didn't the vaccine work? Yeah. All right. So they did certain government studies. I'm gonna give you some figures from this. The overall outcome of what they said is the data showed that overall flu vaccine was 15% effective in all age groups. And then underneath to give you the variations, so 2 to 17 year olds, it was 26.9% effective, and then it goes down to 12.2 and 10.1. And I've got another study here saying basically the same sort of thing, and it kind of explains why. So it says overall the vaccine effectiveness was low, driven by no effectiveness against a particular strain, and possibly related to the vaccine virus egg adaptation and a new subgroup emergence. Yeah, so meaning that they caught a new thing. They got the thing that they was supposed to, you know what I mean? They got the thing that it was supposed to protect them from. And then it's saying the TIV was not effective against influenza B, which is an inactive virus. So it's got the virus in there, but it's been killed. And then they got this one, that's the active one, and it was saying that was against influenza B and H1N1, that strain, it was effective. Cool, alright, yeah. So vaccines are super effective, yeah. So even if you take it, you're supposed to believe what they say. Cool. So the next year they're gonna get it right, then, innit? They're gonna get it better. Alright, so let's look at what happened the next year then. Next year, flu vaccine effectiveness data shows newly adjuvanted influenza vaccine provided about 60% effectiveness for those 65 years and over. That sounds great. Sounds great, doesn't that? Alright, so let's look at the real figures now, because then we'll start to see what they do with their figures and how they present it to you. So reported end of season flu vaccine effectiveness against all strains was 44% across all ages. It was 48% for 2 to 17 year olds, 44% for 18 to 64 year olds, and 49% for those aged 65 and over. And it was only one particular strain that was 62%. So you see how they're being technical with their information. So even the information that they give you, you can't trust them to give you. So you have to go and check yourself and actually see. Because if you look on NHS or something like that, they'll tell you some of these things don't exist, or it's mad. It's mad. So, all right. There was a study done that same year by the American military, the Department of Defense, and hear what their study says. It shows that 36% higher odds of getting the coronavirus if you've had the influenza vaccine. Yeah. Wait, let me bring this down now. So these are all studies that are out there. This isn't Mythland. This is stuff that you can go look at yourself. You get the vaccine and you're more likely to get other viruses, especially coronaviruses. Let me bring this photo up so you can see. So the people, this table is just basically showing you if you've any respiratory viruses and the odds or ratios by vaccination status. So it's comparing who's been vaccinated and who hasn't, and their chances or their likelihood of getting any of these viruses on the left. Yeah. Now you can see that if people have been vaccinated, there's plenty of them that it seems to be providing you some protection against. Yeah. So most of the flu viruses, if you've had the as you would expect, if you get the flu vaccine, it's probably going to protect you against that. So most of them, they're all good. We start to get problems when we get to non-influenza virus. So any other virus, you're more likely to catch by 15%. Yeah. Then you come down to coronavirus. So any other coronavirus, and you're 36% more likely to get that. And then when you come down to human metapneumovirus, 59%. No, 51%. Like, I mean, these are studies that are out there. It's not Mythland or anything like that. And then here's a quote from the actual study. While influenza vaccination offers protection against influenza, natural influenza infection, so catching it naturally, may reduce the risk of non-influenza respiratory viruses by providing temporary non-specific immunity against these viruses. So if you catch flu naturally, your body's got kind of a wide ranging way to fight back, so that other viruses get caught in it as well. But if you take an injection, a vaccine, because it's so specific, it leaves you open to getting other ones, because it's not giving you that wide one. So that's what this is saying. Saying, on the other hand, recently published studies have described the phenomena of vaccine-associated virus interference, that is, vaccinated individuals may be at increased risk for other respiratory viruses because they do not receive the non-specific immunity associated with natural infection. Yeah, you get me? Alright, so I hope you're sticking with me. I've tried to show you there's a pattern of behavior. They've done this for a while. They've run the same thing all the time. I've showed you that vaccines are 100% safe, and the mechanism in the way that they actually can injure you. I'm not saying that they're going to injure everybody, but I'm just explaining the way that I know that they can injure you. I showed you some of the ingredients that's in vaccines. Obviously they vary, but the actual ingredients that in there, and I've also just been through the fact that vaccines aren't as effective as they say they are, and then vaccines can make you catch other things just because they're specific to strains rather than you catching it naturally and building a natural immunity. All right, so one thing I'm gonna switch. One thing I'm gonna address here now. Yeah, is that a lot of people that are very pro-vaccine, they love to try and shout at you and tell you, oh, if it wasn't for vaccines, we'd have never got rid of smallpox, we'd have never got rid of polio and all of that, and you're just singing. You're just singing from the big farmers choir. Obviously, then they're gonna say that, oh, vaccines are the magic bullet, so that they can sell it to you. You know what I mean? But there's doctors and physicians from a long time ago and up to now that don't agree with that. That idea that vaccines is what saved people. In fact, there's been many a study, and I'm gonna show you one here. This one's called Pediatrics, Official Journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I think I got this one off the CDC website, but I'll put all the links, like I said, so that you can get these and download them yourself. This one's done by a major guy on it's Bernard Geyer, and it's normally an annual summary of vital statistics. But if you see here in the note to the reader, they say that this year's article could be called a centennial summary of vital statistics, basically because they looked at the data from the whole century, yeah, and the whole when they get to the bottom of it, yeah, their conclusion is that, what does it say? I'm going to read it word for word. Vaccination, while first used in the 18th century, became more widely implemented in the middle part of the century. Yeah, vaccines against diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis became available during the late 1920s, but only widely used in routine pediatric practice after World War II. So, vaccination does not account for the impressive declines in mortality seen in the first half of the century. The reduction in vaccine-preventable diseases, however, are impressive. Yeah, so what they basically suggest is that it's changes in hygiene and life, like the quality of life and all these kind of things, sanitation and all of these kind of things. That's help bring about the change. Let me show you a next one, because it's not just that one on its own. You'd think that it's just a lone study and say, oh yeah, that's just one study. Here's another one saying the same thing, yeah. And this study was from, what year did they do this study? I think they did it in 2000 or something like that. Yeah. Oh, was the last one in 2000? This one was older. I think this one was older. This one was 77. Yeah, that's it. This one was 77. The last one was in like 2000 or something like that. Yeah. And with this one here, you've seen how I've titled it. It's the questionable contribution of medical measures to the decline of mortality in the United States in the 20th century. Yeah, by John B. McKinley and Sonia M. McKinley. Yeah, you can again, you can. I'll put the link for this so that you can go and get it yourself. And look at the quote that they started with. The quote that they started with is from 1959. Yeah, and it says, by the time laboratory medicine came effectively into the picture, the job had been carried far toward completion by the humanitarians and social reformers of the 19th century. Their doctrine that nature is holy and healthful was scientifically naive, but proved highly effective in dealing with the most important health problems of their age. And then they add, when the tide is receding from the beach, it is easy to have the illusion that one can empty the ocean by removing water with a pail. Yeah, they've been saying this for a minute. Professionals have been saying this for a minute, but you don't want to hear them. You know what I mean? But all right, cool. Now I thought I'd pull this up because they've got loads of stuff in here. But this one here kind of trying to kind of visualizes it for you. Yeah. So from the 1900s, that's where the like the death rate was. Yeah, that's the death rate without the without, what does it say, 11 infectious diseases. So if you count the 11 infectious diseases out, then it's down there. But with the 11 infectious, it's up there, yeah? So from 1900 to late 1920s, what's like 1928 or something like that, there's no vaccination. That whole period there, that whole big period there where there's no dotted line, no vaccination. But look how far it comes down by itself, yeah? Because they're saying different things changed in that period, like hygiene, sanitation, and you know what I mean, all those kind of things. And then once it comes in, you don't see like a big drop as it comes in. It just continues on the same path that it was going anyway, yeah. And then you see medicine kind of flatten out as they suggested throughout the war. And then they said from here onwards after the war, what about there, look. That's when they start using it heavy, skyrocket with the medicine, but there's no cliff drop off with what's it. It was just kind of going its own trajectory anyway. There's already couple that are already kind of showing that. So I think I've already like kind of made my argument. All this would have never got past smallpox and all of that without it. That's not something that science agrees on at all in any way, and hasn't for a long time. Throw that one out the window. Vaccines are safe. Okay, cool. From the history that I've seen with it, I've seen a certain behaviour where they're not trusted. I can see why they would do it, because they're making so much money. I mean, I've explained myself in many different ways. I think I'm gonna round it off though with a one video. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna round it off with a one video from a brother, and this guy, his name is Luc Montagnier. He's a Nobel Prize winner. He's the co-founder of the HIV virus, and he says some interesting stuff in this that you'd probably think like, whoa, this guy works with vaccines, so he's gonna try and push vaccine. Yeah, and that's not what the guy says. Let me get it up.
You talked about oxidative stress earlier. Is treating oxidative stress one of the best ways to deal with the African AIDS epidemic?
I think this is one way to approach, to decrease the rate of transmission, because I believe HIV, we can be exposed to HIV many times without being chronically infected. Our immune system could get rid of the virus within a few weeks if you have a good immune system. And this is the problem also of African people. Their nutrition is not very equilibrated. They are in oxidative stress, even they are not infected with HIV. So their immune system doesn't work well already. So it's prone, they can, allow HIV to get in and persist. So there are many ways which are not the vaccine, the magic name, the vaccine. Many ways to decrease the transmission just by simple measures of nutrition, giving antioxidants, proper antioxidants, hygiene measures, fighting the other infections. So they are not spectacular, but they could, decrease very well the epidemic to the level they are in Occidental countries, Western countries.
If you have a good immune system, then your body can naturally get rid of HIV.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Do you think we should have more of a push for antioxidants and things of that nature in Africa than antiretrovirals?
We should push for more, a combination of measures, antioxidant, but nutrition, advice and nutrition, fighting other infections, malaria, tuberculosis, parasitosis. Most children have worms. Education, of course, genital hygiene for women and men also. Very simple measure, which not very expensive, but which could do a lot. And this is my worry about the many spectacular action. Of course, there are global funds to buy drugs and so on, Bill Gates and so on, for the vaccine. But those kind of measures are not very well funded, not funded at all. Or they are, it really depends on the local government to take conscious of this. But local government, they take advice of the scientific advisors from the international institutions, and they don't get this kind of advice very often.
There's no money in nutrition, right? There's no profit.
There's no profit, yes. The water is important. Water is key.
Now, one thing you said, you were talking about the fact that if you have a built immune system, it is possible to get rid of HIV naturally. If you take a poor African who's been infected and you build up their immune system, is it possible for them to also naturally get rid of it?
I would think so.
Okay, that's an important.
It's
point.
Important knowledge which is completely neglected. People always think of drugs and vaccine. So this is a message which may be different from what you heard before, no?
The closing?
No. Yes, my message is different from what you heard from Fauci or.
Yes. Yeah. It's a little different.
It's a little different.
Yo, I don't even know what to say to you, man. Like, I think when you listen to how he's talking, that all ties into what the rest of the medical science says. Hygiene, food, do you know what I mean? Mental health, all these kind of things are things that improve. He's still someone that will tell you to take vaccines. Like, he's not telling you don't ever take no vaccines ever, but come on, there's things you can do that can improve it way better and have a better effect. And it has to be effective enough. It has to, for me, it has to be more a balance of, do I really need it? Is it going to help me? Am I taking more of a risk than by taking it? And for me, it's a firm no. So unless you got anything to convince me, then unless you got something to convince me, then nah. And I don't want to see none of this fact checking nonsense. Yeah. Okay, let me just show you what they do with fact checking. Yeah. Let's do this. So we'll get debunked. MR5. Fetal tissue. Yeah. Fetal tissue. I'll put this on the web page for you. No, wrong one. Let's go on this one. Hold on. Yeah, .go. So let's put debunked. Fetal tissue. See what comes up. Okay. So let's click one of these 5 biggest claims, yeah. And this is how you have to check out how there's a massive misinformation campaign going off at the moment, but it's not from us, yeah. Alright. So they're talking about misinformation on COVID-19 vaccine, yeah. It does not contain aborted fetuses, yeah. And then they go on to talk about a video that's gone through Facebook and Twitter. We've all seen the video, yeah. And they're explaining the woman says she just screenshot a Wikipedia entry for MRC5, yeah, which argues that the cell line was from, okay, so this is what they're saying is false, yeah. So they're saying that's false. It's false claims. Go through it. Now, here's where you have to read the thing properly and listen to what they're saying. Look, a spokesperson for it says, oh no, it doesn't use MRC5, but a different cell line. It uses HEC293. The original HEC293, yeah, were taken from kidney of an aborted fetus in 1973. Because MRC5 was a cell from an aborted fetus in 1966. So it's not that one. It's from another one from 1973. And the cells nowadays are clones of the originals, but not themselves the cells of a. So this is what they're using to say that makes it fake. That means it's false news because it's not from the cells of an aborted baby. It's from the cells of another aborted baby, and because it's clones, it's not actually the cells themselves. If you look on the video, the woman clearly says goes to the thing and it says clone cells. The same thing that they got in all of these. It's almost like someone hands out the stories to debunking things, and then they mix it up with that. So I don't wanna hear nothing about no debunking thing, because you see how they move. Look, they throw mad pictures in with people to make you see. You know what I mean? But anyway. If you got something to convince me of, drop it to me, explain it to me in the comment section. You got any documents you think I need to see, show me that, send forward that. But as far as taking a thing, hell no, I ain't taking that. Convince me why I should.